good afternoon, everyone. So, today we are going to do the FDBMS second assignment, which is the problem statement IPL T20 database system. Okay, so we will be executing all the queries. So, we have distributed among us how much queries we will be executing. So, my name is Varshini, and we are students from second sem ISC department. So, guys, introduce yourself now. Tasmia.
Hello everyone, I am Tasmia Mehek S.
Hello everyone, my name is Bhumika Kyar.
Hello everyone, my name is Sinchana KB.
Okay, guys, shall we start executing?
Yeah, so first I am going to explain the match and the team performance queries. So the first query we have is highest scoring match in IPL history query. The query groups the score by match ID. For each match, it calculates the maximum score using max aggregation function. The results are sorted in descending order based on highest score, and the query returns only the top row, which corresponds to the match with the highest score in IPL history.
Hmm.
So the match ID is 1001 and the highest score is 180.
Hmm.
The next query we have is team with the lowest total score in a match query. So here we see the query groups the score by both match ID and team ID. For each group, it calculates the minimum score using the minimum aggregation function. However, since we are grouping by both match ID and team ID, each team only one score per match. This effectively just retrieves the score for each team in a match. So the results are sorted in ascending order based on the lowest score. So the team ID we have is 1. Yeah, so match ID is 1002 and the lowest score is 150. Yeah, so the third query we have is team that has lost the most wickets in single match query. Okay, so the query groups the score by both team ID and match ID, and the calculation we see here for each group, it calculates the maximum wickets lost using the maximum aggregation, and however, since we are grouping by both team ID and match ID, each team has only one record of wickets lost per match. Okay, so the results are sorted in descending order on the based on maximum wicket lost, and the results are query returns only the top row, which corresponds to the team that lost the most wickets in a single match. So the output we see here is the team ID is 1 and match ID is again 1002 and match wickets lost is 9. And here we have the next query, that is the team that has won the most matches at a particular stadium. So here the query joins three tables: matches, teams and venues. It matches the winner team ID in matches, the team ID in teams, venue ID in matches with venue ID in venues.
So, Tasmia, can you just explain me what is from, where, and join in this?
Yeah, sure. So here for you asked where, from and join, right? So for
Yes.
from specifies the tables to retrieve data from. Okay, so it defines that the source of the data for the query,
Okay.
and where filters the data based on the conditions, like specifies which row to include in the result set,
Hmm.
and for the next we have join, right? So join combines the data from two or more tables based on a related columns. Let me just tell you the output also.
Okay.
Yeah, so for the output we have team name that is Chennai Super Kings. So the venue name is M.A. Chidambaram Stadium and it wins 1. Yeah, for the fifth query we have is team with the best win percentage across all seasons. So let's see how it works. So the subquery we have is it generates a list of all the teams and their corresponding matches. The subquery result is left joined with the matches table to get the match result. For each team, the query calculates the win percentage by counting the number of wins and it divides and dividing it by the total number of matches it played. Okay, so the
Yes.
result we have is team ID. Team ID is 6 and the win percentage is 100%. Yeah. Yeah, so next we go ahead for the player performance queries. So there we have the query which is player has hit the most sixes in IPL history. So let's
Hmm.
see how it works. Okay, so it selects the player ID and maximum number of sixes by that player, and it pulls the data from the table containing player statistics, and it groups the statistics by each players, and it sorts the list so that the player with the highest sixes comes first. So it returns only the top result, the player with the most sixes, and we have the output here is player ID is 103 and total sixes are 40. Yeah.
Okay, so the second part will be continued by Bhumika KR. So Bhumika KR, can you just unmute your mic?
I'm going to continue about from the player and performance queries. I'm telling about the seventh query, that is in which player with the most run in the single season. So here let me break down the query. In this query we can see we are selecting the player ID and the season year. Here we just it selects the player ID and the season year. It specifies the table of the query, which is from the player status. It's the player ID and the player year, season year is selected from the player states. So here the group is results by the player ID and the season year. We can just see in this by season runs and desk order. Order the results descending order based on the season runs. It's in limit 1, it runs only from the top row. And as we see the output, it is in the three top tabular columns, that is player ID, season year, and season run. Player ID is 103 and season year is 2023. Season runs is 550. Next, I'm continuing about the eighth query, that is player with the most wickets in the IPL history. So here we can see we have selected player's ID. As the total wickets, select the player ID and the calculations of the total wicket taken. So here we are selecting the player from the player's stats. That is from player's stat. It specifies the table of the query. And we are taking this from the group. That is group is named by the player ID. Its order total wicket, we are going to take the order that which results in the descending order based on the total wickets. Its limit is 1, but obviously it's from the returns only from the top row. And as we see the output, it's of the two tabular columns, that is player ID and the total wickets. Player ID is 106 and the total wicket is 12. Now I'm continuing with the ninth query, that is bowler with the best bowling figures. Here we can see in this SQL query, we can see this the same it is from seventh and eighth query. We are selecting for player ID and the match ID. That selects the player ID and the match ID from the player stats. And it is grouped by the player ID and the match ID. Here we also this orders the results of the descending order based on the best figures, that is the maximum wickets taken. And is limit 1. The limits of the output to only the top row. We can just see the output. The output is about two tabular columns, that is player ID and the total wickets. 106 is the player ID and the 12 total wickets. The next query is about the 10th, the batsman with the highest strike rate in the season. Here we are selecting the player ID and the season year and the strike rate. It selects the player ID, season year and the strike rate columns. These all are selected from the player stats. It specifies the table in the query and its order strike rate. That order it results in the descending order based on the strike rate. The player with the highest strike rate will be on at the top. Returns with only top row, which corresponds to the player with the highest red streak. That is, the output consists of three tabular columns: player ID, that is 106, season year is 2023, and the strike rate is 165.5. Next, I'm going to continue with the stadium and the ground analysis queries. So here I'm going to continue with the 11th one, that is stadium that has hosted the most IPL matches. In this, we select the venue ID count, that is match ID, as the match as hosted. After that, we are going to select all the select venue ID and account ID has match hosted from the matches, that is specific table query, which is matches. It is grouped by the venue ID, groups in the results by the venue ID, allowing the count of the matches to be calculated from the venue individually, ordering the results of descending order based on the matches hosted. The limit 1 returns only from the top row. As we can see the output, its venue ID is 4 and the matches hosted is 1. Now it's the 12th query, that is stadium with the most 200 plus scores. Here we can we can just see it selects from the venue ID count has the high score scores. From sources join matches on score matches. Match ID is equals to match. So join the score table with the matches table on the match ID. After it is grouped by the venue ID, groups groups the results of the venue ID, allowing the count of the high scores be calculated for the venue individually. Its limit is returns on the top row, which corresponds to the venue where the most high scores have been achieved. The output will be given in the form of in which venue how much in which venue we can get 200 plus streaks.
So after view Bhumika, I will be continuing with the next part of stadium and ground analysis queries, which is the 13th one. So the 13th one question is, what is the average first inning scores at a particular ground? Okay. So here the 13th one says that join the scores table with the matches table on the matcher ID column. Filter rows where the first innings is true in the score table. Groups the result by venue ID column and calculates the average runs for each venue in the first innings and assigns it to the average first inning. So here as we can see, the query is to identify the team that performs the best at the particular venue. To understand the query, calculate the number of wins and the win percentage for each team at each venue. Groups the result by team ID and venue ID, orders the result in descending order based on the win percentage, and limits the output to the top one team venue combination with the highest win percentage. And the query returns team ID, the team with the highest win percentage, venue ID, the venue where the team has the highest win percentage, wins. The number of wins for the team at the venue, win percentage, calculates the win percentage for the team at that venue, rounded to the two decimal places. This query helps identifying the teams that performs best at a particular venue. So I'll be doing with the next 15th query. Start with the 15th query. The query is to identify the player who has sold for the highest price in 2024 auction.
Okay.
So to see this query, filter auction for the year 2024 according to the insertion and the selection table and the create table. Group the results by player ID, finds the maximum auction price for each player, orders the result in descending order based on the highest price, returns the player with the highest auction price in 2024. The query returns a player ID, the player ID where the highest auction price is shown, and the next is the highest. price with the highest auction price for that query. So this query identifies a player who was sold for the highest price in 2024 auction. So
Okay.
the next I will be doing the 16th one.
Yeah. Okay.
So the player with the player ID 109 has been soldest for the highest, which is the 1200000. I mean for like 1 crore 20 lakhs around he has been sold. So I will be doing the next 16th query. So in this query, it filters the player retained. So the question is this query identifies the team with the largest retention of the player in the 2024 season. So filter players retained is equal to like in the 2024 year groups the result by team id, counts the number of players retained by each team, which is the retained count, orders the results in descending order based on retained count, returns the team that retained the most players in 2024, and the query returns a team id, the team id that retained the most players, and the retained count is the number of players retained by the team. So let's see, the team id is 1 and the retained count is 1. So I will be doing the 17th one now. So the 17th one is which franchise has retained the most players from the previous seasons. So let's see it. Okay, now let's see. Group by the auction data by ID, player ID, and counts the number of distinct team IDs for each player, representing the number of teams a player has been part of, which is the team changes. Orders the result in descending order based on the team changes, returns the player who has changed the most, and the query returns a player ID, the player with the most team changes, and team changes is the number of teams the player has been part of. And lastly, this query identifies the player with the highest number of teams changed based on the auction data. So I have completed my part. Now Sinchana KB will be completing. So now the player id is 109 and the team changes is 1.
Uh, uh, so now I'm explaining auction and retention query. Query number 18, team that spent the most on auctions. This finds the team that has spent the most money in the IPL auctions. It adds the total auction price for each team from the auctions table, groups the data by team ID, orders them from highest to lowest and picks the top one. Team ID is 2, total spent 1 crore 60 lakh. So now I'm explaining query number 19, auction price trend of a particular player. This shows how much a specific player was auctioned for over different years, filters the auction data for a player with ID which is equal to 103, list year-wise auction price. You can replace 103 with any other player's ID to get their price history. So auction year is 2023. So auction price is 1 crore 60 lakh. So now I'm explaining historical and trend analysis query. Query number 20 that states team that lost the most matches. This finds the team with the most number of losses in the IPL history, combines both team 1 ID and team 2 ID from each match into one column, filters matches where the team is not the winner, groups by team ID and counts losses. So team ID is 5, losses is 2. So now I'm explaining query number 21, that is bowler who bowled the most dot balls. This identifies the bowler who bowled the most dot balls, sums up all dot balls per player, orders by the highest total and picks the top player. So player ID is 101, total dots is 100. Query number 22. This explains finds the player with the most matches played, sums total played per player, orders by the most and selects the top one. The player ID is 103, total matches is 14. Query number 23. A captain with explains the captain with the highest win percentage. So this finds the captain with the highest win percentage, counts how many matches each captain won, calculates win percentage out of total matches that had a captain, orders by the percentage and picks the highest one. So player ID is 103 and total matches are 14. The question number 24 is as same as question number 19.
So here we are all have completed all the query explanation. Now the topic was the IPL system database.
Yeah.
So here we have explained each and everything, so the select statements and the insert, we have all inserted the values. So at last we have showed the query explanation. And thank you guys for attending the Google Meet section. Like we all have done good. So thank you all. Can you all just say thank you?
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
this.